Once again, Christian greetings to all our valued listeners and viewers throughout the whole world, even more particularly to all Shepherd's Rod believers, and most especially to our beloved brothers and sisters in the United States of America. Special greetings to our brethren in Kansas, in Colorado, in Texas, in Georgia, in Missouri, in Fiji Island, Mexico, in Spain, in Africa, Kenya, Pakistan, to the United Kingdom, and also to our brethren in Australia, and to the rest of the 144,000 living saints scattered abroad. Greetings. May the good Lord bless you, brothers and sisters. This is our episode number 35 on the subject, the chronological order of events. And upon the request of our beloved brother Steve and Corinne, and to the rest who are listening and viewing this program, may the good Lord bless you. Now, let us begin our study on White House Recruiter. It says on page 13, how can we know for a certainty in which hour we find ourselves, and if our own call to service has come? We can know only by establishing the time in which the last parabolic hour expires. We already studied several times that the last parabolic hours expire at even, and that is the time when the last call, the 11th hour call, had been given the reward. So let's read again, Matthew 20 verse 8. So when even was come, the Lord of the vineyard said unto his steward, call the laborers and give them hire, beginning from the last unto the first. Verse 9, and when they came that were hired about the 11th hour, they received every man a penny. So, the last parabolic hour expired at even, or in our common term, it says at sunset. Now, in White House Recruiter, page 38 and page 39, it says, let's read the statement. Consequently, the 11th hour servants are the first to receive their reward, the penny. They live on to meet their God, to hear Him speak unto them the thrilling commendation. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord. Matthew 25 verse 21. So, the statement is very plain that the very first to receive the reward, which is characterized by the penny, is the 11th hour servants. In White House Recruiter, page 28, it says, hence it is to be proclaimed by guileless servants, the 144,000, the servants of the 11th hour. White House Recruiter, page 28. So, the servants of the 11th hour is the 144,000 living saints, spiritual Israel. They are the very first one to receive their reward, characterized by penny, by which, according to SR 235, it says, why were the first paid last and the last first? Answer. The pay God's servants receive is eternal life and is characterized by the payment. Therefore, those who are granted the assurance of a never-ending life first are those who were hired last. And according to the parable, it was the company called at the 11th hour. Then it says, they are those who are marked or sealed by the man with the writer's inkhorn of Ezekiel 9. Or as John calls him, the angel with the seal of God. And he sealed or marked 144,000. See Revelation chapter 7. This glorious company is the first who are granted the assurance of never tasting death. 1 SR pages 22 to 24. Thus they are paid first, but those who were called early in the morning, Israel after the flesh, are to be resurrected, the righteous, when Christ comes in the clouds, at which time they shall be given immortality, so that the last shall be first, and the first last. For this reason, those who were sealed and saved by the third angel's message since 1844 are resurrected in the spatial resurrection before Christ comes. See Daniel 12 verse 2, Early Writings, page 285. Now the shepherd's rod made it so plain that at the time when these saints are resurrected, it says, that is the time that immortality will be given to them. And the very first one to be resurrected is Daniel 12 verse 2. And we know that that is the fourth call, the one that had been called at the 9th hour, or in our modern time piece of clock, that is 3 p.m. So, in the parable of Matthew 20, the very first one to be granted immortality is the last call, the 11th hour call, the 144,000 living saints, spiritual Israel. Now, I would like to repeat again that as far as the parable in Matthew 20 is thus concerned, the great multitude, the second fruits of the living saints, Revelation 7 verse 9, was not included in the parable, but it is included on the subject, the crucifixion. So, since we focus first our time to the parable in Matthew 20, the last parabolic hour expires at the time when the 144,000 living saints had given the reward. At the time when the 144,000 living saints had been granted, according to that reading in 2SR 235, never-ending life. Therefore, that is immortality. Now, going back again on the great controversy 490, let us read the statement. The righteous and the wicked will still be living upon the earth in their mortal state. Men will be planting and building, eating and drinking, all unconscious that the final, irrevocable decision has been pronounced in the sanctuary above. And the irrevocable decision mentioned here is found in the upper paragraph. Now, the reading, brothers and sisters, saying, will still be living upon the earth in their mortal state, undoubtedly referring only to the righteous, because immortality will never be granted to the wicked. Because the word still be living, indicating that there must be a period of time by which immortality will be granted to them.
But the irrevocable decision that will be pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary, it will be pronounced while the righteous will still be living upon the earth in their mortal state. Now, concerning Revelation 22 verse 11 and 12, it has a double application since there are two clause of provision. The clause of provision for the church and the clause of provision for the world. Now, for example, here in 2SR, let me read to you. Here in 2SR, on page 186, so let us read 2SR page 186, it says here, it will be noticed that the clause of provision for the church and the one for the world are two different events. The former is a miniature representation of the latter. The scripture for the preceding one is found in Matthew 25, verse 11 and 12. But of the final one, we read, he that is unjust, let him be unjust still. And he which is filthy, let him be filthy still. And he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is holy, let him be holy still. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me to give every man according as his work shall be. Revelation 22, verse 11 and 12. At this time, those who were like the 5 foolish virgins will say, the harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. Jeremiah 8 verse 20. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east, they shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord, and shall not find it. Amos chapter 8 verse 12. Now, I would like to focus first, Jeremiah 8 verse 20. Now, in track number 3 on page 70 and page 71, it says, the second section of the separation, thus being completed, provisionary time is closed, whereupon from the wicked will be heard the horrible wail of doom. The harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. Jeremiah 8 verse 20. This being the dreadful experience of the tares in Babylon, in the second section of the harvest, there must, as a type, be a similar and precedent experience for the tares in the Laodicean church in the first section of the harvest. So let us focus to the first section of the harvest, by which the tares in the Laodicean church, they will be the one to, according to this reading, to proclaim this or to pronounce this horrible wail of doom, saying the harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. Now, let us read track number 9, page 70 and page 71. It says, let's read the statement. Learning to their terror with the passing of provision that they are forever lost, the neglectful will cry out bitterly, the harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. Jeremiah 8 verse 20. Now, I would like to read this statement in the old symbolic code. So let us read the statement. Here in the old symbolic code, still concerning Jeremiah 8 verse 20. One symbolic code, number 14, page 11. One symbolic code, number 14, page 11. It says, how could the harvest be after the close of provision? If provisionary time is before the close of provision, seeing that it does not say the harvest is after the end of provisionary time, hence, it is plain that the harvest must precede the close of provision. That is, the harvest is the end, the last part of provisionary time, and with it, probation closes. Moreover, Jeremiah prophetically saw that after the harvest was past and the summer ended, the time men were to be saved, the wicked saved. The harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. Jeremiah 8 verse 20. If the harvest is after the close of provision, why should they say the harvest is past, the summer is ended? For they certainly could not say these words before provision closes. Neither could they after the second coming of Christ. For them, they would be dead and could not speak. Consequently, the only time these words could be spoken is in the period between the close of provision and the second coming of Christ, which fact places the harvest before provision closes. Now, remember, our interest is focused to the close of provision for the church, the first section of the harvest. And the shepherd's rod made it so plain in that reading in one symbolic code. Number 14, page 11, that first, it is the tares, it is the wicked in the Laodicean church will be the one to wail that a very horrible wailing, saying the harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. And secondly, the shepherds had declared that that predicted event, of course, dreadful experience to those people who will be the one to wail, to gnash their teeth. But the shepherd's rod declared clearly that such event must be during the time while they were still alive. For they could not say those words if they were already dead. Therefore, Jeremiah 8 verse 20, in the primary application on the first section of the harvest, it must be during the time while they were still alive. It could not be after the slaughtering, neither during the slaughtering, but rather before that time, while they were still alive, they recognized the fact that they lost eternity, forever lost, brothers and sisters, according to the voice of inspiration. Here's another statement that I would like to read to you. I would like to read first the statement here in White House Recruiter, pages 37 and page 38. Let us read the statement. White House Recruiter, pages 37 and page 38. It says, tragically, those who now fail to fill their vessels, Matthew 25 verse 1 to 4, with this extra oil, the additional truth, that of the judgment of the living, flowing from the golden bowl, Zechariah chapter 4, will finally see their lamps flicker out forever like a guttered candle. Oh, in what consternation then will they search for the precious golden oil? It says, and with what infinitely greater anxiety than they now search for gold and for prestige. But alas, then like Esau, though they seek it carefully with tears, they shall find no place of repentance. They purchase their oil too late. the door is closed when they reach it, and to their frantic knocking it comes the terrifying reply, I never know you. Matthew 7 verse 23. Then is the harvest of the first fruits past, the fruits garnered in, and the tares shut out unto destruction, there in agony, to wail and to gnash their teeth. The harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. Jeremiah 8 verse 20. So here in White House Recruiter, page 38, plainly telling us that the harvest which is past indicate that the first fruits, the 144,000 living saints were completely sealed, or that exact number of the 144,000 is completed. The same with the statement in 2 Azar on page 165. It says, when this number is sealed, probation will close for the church. 2 SR 165. I would like to read again. When this number is sealed, probation will close for the church. Now, I would like to read again 1 SR Packet Edition, page 9. It says, and how can one escape the slaughter? 1 SR Packet Edition, page 9. And how can one escape the slaughter unless one knows what the sealing, marking is, when it is, and where it is to be? There are 4 questions that we need positive answer. First, unless we have a certain understanding what the sealing is, unless we have a complete understanding what the marking is, unless we completely understood when it is to be. And lastly, we need to have a distinct understanding where it is to be. Without these 4 knowledge, it utters the impossibility that one can escape the slaughter according to that reading. Let's read 1 SR. Here in 1 SR, it says here, let's read the statement given by the shepherd's rod, by which the shepherd's rod emphasized clearly that it would be out of value to understand the sealing of the 144,000 after the event. 1 SR, page 14 and page 15. It says, if we do not understand the subject of the 144,000, we may not be sealed, for it would be worthless to understand it after the sealing, just as it would be of no value to understand the beast and his image after his work on earth is finished. 1 SR pages 14 and page 15. It says that it is impossible to be among the 144,000 living saints if we have no complete understanding concerning about it. And it was enumerated one by one in 1 SR Packet Edition, page 9. What the sealing is, what the marking is, when it is to be, and where it is to be. And unless we have a definite, complete understanding concerning these 4 questions, it is impossible to be among the 144,000. And it is impossible that we could be able to escape the slaughter. Now, let's go back to our subject concerning Jeremiah 8:20. Of course, Jeremiah 8:20 must be pointing to the class by which they failed to obtain the seal of the living God, to be a part of that special company, 144,000 living saints. But the shepherd's rod made it so plain that it is the foolish virgins. Now, I would like to read 2 SR 183 and 184. It says, And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut. Afterward came also the other virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open unto us. But he answered and said, Verily I say unto you, I know you not. As the foolish virgins at last came to the door, it is evident that they obtained the oil, meaning, learn of the message. But there had been a delay. The door was shut, and they were left out. Now, why were they unconcerned at first and very zealous at last? The experience in this instance is about the same as that of the deluge. While Noah preached the coming of the flood, the world paid little attention to this message, but those who believed went into the ark at a given time, and the door was closed. But not long afterwards, signs of Noah's prediction appeared, and as drops of rain began to fall, the wicked multitude became alarmed and rushed for the ark, but the door was closed, and they were left out. The door that was shut is a symbol showing that provision for the church had closed just shortly after the foolish virgins became alarmed. At last, they were willing to pay the price and buy the oil, but it was not a change of heart, only the fear of losing out. Their course of action had left them without the seal. The man with the writer's inkhorn had passed them by. What a terrible mistake! What a disappointment! Almost saved, but entirely lost. 2 SR 183 and 184. Now here the shepherds make a comparison to the days of Noah. And the shepherds made it so plain that those who believed the message went into the ark at a given time. There was a given time. That is very plain in this reading. And the illustration that the door was closed, meaning provision for the church closed. Now let us focus our attention to the statement, given time. For example, in 1 TG number 25, 1 TG number 25, page 13, it says, Shall we anoint our eyes with this fresh golden oil of truth, that we may see and know the way, that we may reach the door on time? How could you be able to know that you reach the door on time unless there must be a given time and unless you listen to that given time? I remember the statement in 1 TG number 8 on page 21. Let's read. It says, What they now see at a distance appears to them for sure to be the sea of glass. But when they get to the end of the way and take a close look, they will in indescribable grief and with quivering voice, it says, cry out, Mirage, mirage. It says, not the sea of glass. Then will they be anxious to know the truth and will pay anything to get it, but it will be too late. And they will to change the figure, get to the door only to hear the voice from within say, I know you not. Matthew 25 verse 12. To say, I know you not, indicates complete denial, brothers and sisters. That is a complete denial. To say, I know you not. Now, let us focus now to the given time. And I think that is the particular object in view on the subject, chronological order of events. Because in the great controversy, 323, it says, another kind of evidence that vitally affected my mind, he says, was the chronology of the scriptures. I found that predicted events which had been fulfilled in the past often occurred within a given time. Then in the last part, it says, the events limited by these times were all once only a matter of prophecy and were fulfilled in accordance with the predictions. Brethren, ponder deeply. Would you think the last generation of men, by which in reality, the most important generations of all the generations, in the past, God bestowed them given time, but unto us, we have no given time at all? Think it thoroughly, my dear brothers and sisters. The voice of inspiration made it so plain. There was a given time. Here's another statement that I would like to read to you. In 2TG 42, pages 37 and 38, it says, the completion of the cleansing brings provisionary time to a close. I would like to read. The completion of the cleansing brings provisionary time to a close. The sinner is forever to stay a sinner, and the righteous forever righteous. Then those who find themselves out of the Holy Land will wail and gnash their teeth. They will in anguish say, the harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. Although it is directly applied to the second section of the harvest. But let us focus first to the first sentence. When the completion of the cleansing brings provisionary time to a close, the sinner is forever to stay a sinner, and the righteous forever righteous. When? When the cleansing is completed. So that is the statement. It is at the time when the cleansing will be completed, brothers and sisters. Now, I would like to read this reading in 2TG 44, page 32 and 33. It says, this parable of the kingdom, contains 3 periods of time. First, the period of sowing the seed, the time of Christ's ministry. Second, the period of growing, the time from the ascension of Christ to the harvest. Third, the time of harvest, a short period of time at the end of the world. Matthew 13, verse 49. The period in which the earth is lightened with the glory of the angel. Revelation 18, verse 1. And in which all God's people are called out of Babylon, verse 4. Then those who did not respond to this gathering call will cry out, the harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. Jeremiah 8 verse 20. The harvest, therefore, is the end of the world. Verse 49. It commences in the church and ends in Babylon. So there are 2 gathering call. But the absolute fact is that those who did not respond to this gathering call, I would like to read this reading in 2TG 43 on pages 11 and page 12. Moreover, since the announcement of the separation of the saints from the sinners originates with the 11th hour servants, and since they are to cry aloud and say, awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion, put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city, for henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. And also to say, behold upon the mountains the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, that publisheth peace, O Judah, keep thy solemn feast, perform thy vows, for the wicked shall no more pass through thee. He is utterly cut off. Nahum 1 verse 15. It follows that without the 11th hour message and servants, the church, Zion, would be left sleeping forever, never to behold the feet of him who brings these good tidings, of him who publishes peace, and never to put on her beautiful garments, never to be fitted for the kingdom. 2TG 43, pages 11 and page 12. Remember our reading in 2TG 42, page 32 and 33, saying, those who did not respond to this gathering call shall cry out bitterly. The harvest is past. The summer is ended. And we are not saved. White House Recruiter, page 38. The harvest which is past is the gathering of the 144,000. Who will gather the 144,000? 2TG 44, page 37 and page 38. Let's read again. Page 37. 2TG 44, 37. Who gathers the first fruits? I would like just to quote that statement. Who gathers the first fruits? Then the answer, the Son of Man therefore gathers the first fruits. 2TG 44, page 37. Who gathers the first fruits? The Son of Man, Jesus Christ. He will be the one to gather the 144,000 living saints. But the absolute fact is that before Jesus Christ will come to gather the 144,000 living saints, there is an announcement. And who will announce? The 11th hour servants. But the fact is that it is pointing to the first of the first fruits, the last ordained ministry. What is their announcement? Let us read again. 2TG 43, page 11. Moreover, since the announcement of the separation of the saints from the sinners, the announcement, the saints mentioned here is the living saints, 144,000. You and I, if you will listen to this gathering call, only those who respond to this gathering call, they will be the only ones by which Jesus Christ will gather. The church will not the one to gather the 144,000. It is Jesus Christ. But the fact is that only those who place themselves, brothers and sisters, by which Jesus Christ can gather them. Now let us read the statement here in tract number 8, page 21. These are the people by which they responded to the gathering call mentioned in 2TG 42:33. It says, those who give implicit heed to the call shall have an irresistible desire to come fully into line. What line? The line of truth. Let us read first the Advent Review that printed in a bold letters. I would like to read that Advent Review. It says, next, it says, to belong to the 144,000, we must join the church triumphant. Or in other words, you want to be among the 144,000, to belong that special company, join the church triumphant. Now, I would like to read first 1TG. Let us read 1TG number, this is the statement given by the person. 1TG number 51, page 10 and page 11. It says, here we see that the church militant is in reality the church which is militant against advancing truth. And that the church triumphant is the church which marches on with the progress of truth. Page 11, it says, we now see as plainly as truth can make it that throughout the ages, the church triumphant was and still is made up of the church members who unceasingly keep climbing the ladder of truth all along to this day. Here's another statement that I would like to read to you. In tract number 14, let us read the statement given by the person. Tract number 14, page 43, it says, the urgent lesson here to be learned is that those who are ever progressing, keeping pace with the march of truth are the only real Christians. They are the only real Christians. Track number 14 on page 43. And here in page 37, the statement says, obviously, as time progresses, so the truth and the Christian advance commensurately with it. Now, let us go back to the reading in the Advent Review. It says, to belong to the 144,000, we must join the church triumphant. The Lord will surely pass us by and choose other agencies who will take hold of His work. When it will be seen, the Lord will take charge of the work Himself, and He calls a mysterious procession. Christ Object Lesson, page 406. The only incident concerning mysterious procession is in the days of Noah. The animals, brothers and sisters, mysteriously in procession, entering into the ark. I would like to read this reading in Patriarchs and Prophets. It says, Patriarchs and Prophets, page 97. It says, and page 98, suddenly a silence fell upon the mocking throng. Beasts of every description, the purses, as well as the most gentle, were seen coming from mountain and forest and quietly making their way toward the ark. A noise as of a rushing wind was heard, and low birds were plucking from all directions, their numbers darkening the heavens, and in perfect order they passed to the ark. Animals obeyed the command of God, while men were disobedient. Guided by holy angels, they went into Noah, into the ark, and the clean beasts by sevens. The world looked on in wonder, some in fear. Philosophers were called upon to account for the singular occurrence, but in vain. It was a mystery which they could not fathom. Patriarchs and Prophets, page 97 and page 98. Now, that illustration will be on the very nick of time. Let's go back to the statement, Advent Review. It says here, when it will be seen, the Lord will take charge of the work Himself, and He calls a mysterious procession. Christ Object Lesson, page 406. The wise among us, if wise enough, joined the throng, and the door was shut. Our people were moving into line. They did not form the line. How could they? They were all asleep. And where's that statement in that saying, in a very nick of time? It says, go ye out to meet Him, that is the bridegroom, and rejoice that this truth came in the nick of time. Pass it on to others. So this message, the midnight cry, come in a very nick of time. Maybe just an hour, or maybe it is just a minute. Very nick of time, brothers and sisters. I would like to read this reading in The Vision of Sister White and Selected Messages, Book 2, Selected Messages, on page 16. Selected Messages, Book 2, page 16. It says here, but I speak not my own words. 2SM, page 16. But I speak not my own words when I say that God's Spirit will pass by those who have had their day of test and opportunity, but who have not distinguished the voice of God or appreciated the movings of His Spirit. Then thousands in the 11th hour, it says, then thousands in the 11th hour will see and acknowledge the truth. You know, while the illustration of Jesus Christ is applied symbolically, but at the same time, there must be an actual illustration by which the shepherd says, Christ's illustrations are perfect. I would like to read track number 3 on page 65. It says, do not regard lightly the wisdom of God. His illustrations are perfect. Christ's illustrations are perfect. I would like to read this reading before, and then we will return to that statement in 2S on page 16. The old codes. 3 symbolic code, number 5 and 6, page 12. 3 symbolic code, number 5 and 6, page 12. It says, when we have come to the last hour of the day, from 5 to 6 p.m., we recognize the fact that we are in the end of the day, even though the last minute has not yet come. Likewise, inasmuch as Christ's parable of the vineyard is true to life. I would like to read again the statement. Likewise, inasmuch as Christ's parable of the vineyard is true to life, then according to physical analogy, we can understand the last hour. We can. Of course, in the parable, would you think in the parable, in actuality, those that have been hired at the 11th hour or 5 p.m., they did not know. They thought that it is still 6 a.m. in the morning. Brothers and sisters, the parable in Matthew 20, the particular object in view is only the 11th hour. Because the first call, the Jewish church, they did not understand the parable because the parable did not exist in their days. Even the apostles, even the Millerites, even the Seventh-day Adventist church. Otherwise, the shepherd's rod will not say that only the 11th hour call understood the truth of the parable. Let us read 2SR 234. It says, but the object of the lesson is for the latter, the last call. 2SR 234. But the object of the lesson is for the latter who are hired at the 11th hour. For the truth of the parable has never been understood by any other company. The company mentioned here is the first 4 calls. The company of the first call, the company of the second call, the company of the third call, the company of the fourth call. They did not understood the parable in Matthew 20, and only the 11th hour call understood completely the parable in Matthew 20. Now let us go back again to the reading. 3 symbolic code, number 5 and 6, page 12. 3 symbolic code, number 5 and 6, page 12. It says, when we have come to the last hour of the day, from 5 to 6 p.m., we recognize the fact. So that is in actuality. Brothers and sisters, let us put it to true to life story. That when we come to 5 p.m., everybody recognize the fact. Brothers and sisters, no one would say that even though that it is already 5 p.m., then he will say that this is 6 a.m. Now, I would like to read again the statement here. 3 symbolic code, number 5 and 6, page 12. When we have come to the last hour of the day, from 5 to 6 p.m., we recognize the fact that we are in the end of the day. Even though the last minute has not yet come. Then the comparison, it says, likewise, you see, likewise, inasmuch as Christ's parable of the vineyard is true to life story. It says, we can understand the last hour, the 11th hour. It did not say, we cannot understand. It did not say, but rather it says, we can understand the last hour. We can. Why? Because, let us read 2SR 237. 2SR 237. Let us read. If God worked on the 3-hour schedule, 2SR 237. If God worked on the 3-hour schedule, with the crucifixion of Jesus. See chart on page 222. And the same rule was followed in the period called day. Then he certainly would not follow another rule in the period called night. The reason he has followed that particular rule is to present to his church the exact time of her history by periods. What is the principal reason why God followed that particular rule, 3-hour schedule, in order to present to his church the exact time? What time? Exact time by history. Brothers and sisters, the periods of the church, exact time. But unto whom? Whose church? By which Jesus Christ will present to them only the 11th hour church. That is why it reminds me always, 11 symbolic code, number 6, page 19, that God gave to the 11th hour servants accurate and reliable blueprint, exact time. Brothers and sisters, it reminds me that statement. I would like to read again that statement. It says, let us read. It says, this person, the swearing, was none other than the Lord Jesus Christ, and he swore to time. Do not forget, brothers and sisters, Revelation is not the prophecy itself. 2SR 221. Brothers and sisters, please quote that sentence that I read. I would like to read again. This person, the swearing, was none other than the Lord Jesus Christ, and he swore to time. Now, I would like to go back again to the reading in 2SR 221, saying that the revelation is not the prophecy of itself, but it is a revelation of the prophecy. Concerning Revelation 10, verse 5, 6, and 7, the angel there swear, and we human beings have no absolute prerogative to swear. We are commanded not to swear. I remember that reading in Matthew chapter 5? It says, Matthew chapter 5 verse 34. But I say unto you, swear not at all. Matthew 5 verse 34. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because thou canst not make one hair white or black. But let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. For whatsoever is more than this cometh of evil. The bottom line is that Matthew 5 verse 34 to verse 37, we as human beings are prohibited to make a swear. But here in Revelation chapter 10, it says on verse 6, and swear by him that liveth forever and ever, who created heaven and the things that therein are, and the earth and the things that therein are, and the sea and the things which are therein, that there should be time no longer. Revelation 10 verse 6. But for sure, the only one, brothers and sisters, who are allowed to swear is Jesus Christ. And it says that the person that make a swear is none other than the Lord Jesus Christ. And he swore to time, saying, there is time no longer. What does it mean? There are plenty of passages saying, there should be no more delay. Now, let us continue reading. It says, But will any man dare take the blasphemous position that the Lord Jesus swear to time that meant nothing, or which is the same thing, swear with the most solemn oath to time that he intended should never be understood? Such a position, one would suppose, is blasphemous enough to make a devil tremble, for it is virtually charging the Lord of glory with swearing a lie. Beware of vain men, how you thus charge the Son of God. Time is revealed. but it cannot be understood without obeying Christ and inquiring and searching diligently what manner of time. Those who are too indolent to search or who are afraid to follow truth when they find it for fear of men whose breath is in his nostrils will of course remain in ignorance of time, and that day most likely will come upon them unawares. So that is very plain, brothers and sisters. Now let's go back again to the reading in 3 symbolic code, number 5 and 6 on page 12. 3 symbolic code, number 5 and 6, page 12. It says, likewise, inasmuch as Christ's parable of the vineyard is true to life, so it is a true to life story. Unto whom? To the 144,000 living saints. Then according to physical analogy, we can understand the last hour. We can understand the 11th hour of the symbolical day of present human history to be only the end of the world. Now, what is the end of the world? Now, let us read answerer, because our subject, brothers and sisters, is concerning the sealing of the 144,000. They are sealed at the first section, the harvest. So, let us read the statement. So, let us distinctly separate the spiritual side and the material side. Now, I would like to read answerer number 2. Answerer number 2, page 36. It says, yes, according to the statement in question, the harvest is the end of provisionary time, taking place at, not after, the close of provision, and the fact that the investigative judgment acts upon one's case after his life career in relation to salvation has ended, and while provision still lingers, is another proof that the harvest is the last part of provisionary time. This accords with Jeremiah's statement, the harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. Jeremiah 8 verse 20. It shows that the harvest is a period of time having a beginning and ending, and that during its time, men are saved. And in early writings, page 118, reveals that the third angel is the one who does the harvesting, while Matthew 13 verse 30 shows also that the angels separate the tares from the wheat in the time of harvest. Answerer number 2, page 36. Who will harvest the 144,000? Jesus Christ. It is Jesus Christ. 2TG 4437. But who will harvest the tares? Brothers and sisters, the angels. It is the angels that will harvest the tares. So during the period of the first section of the harvest, there are two harvesters. Tares will be harvested by the angels. The wheat, which is the 144,000 according to 1 SR 228, it is Jesus Christ who will harvest and gather them. I would like to read this reading in track number 3. Track number 3 on page, page 67. Track number 3 on page 67. It says, the command, gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, does not mean to gather his saints from the earth into heaven. Neither does it mean to destroy the wicked from the earth. For the former are to be gathered not directly to heaven, but first into the barn, the kingdom on earth. And the latter are not to be destroyed immediately in the time of harvest, but first are to be gathered into bundles and then destroyed, as is further illustrated in the parable of the net. Now, let us show to you, brothers and sisters, where does the tares will be gathered? They will be gathered into bundles. Now, what is represented by bundles? For example, this is represented by bundles. The wicked are gathered into bundles. Who gathered them? The angels. But the question is, when does the tares are gathered into bundles? So that is the question. When does the tares are gathered into bundles? Now let us read 1SR. 1SR page 228. It says, New Testament time, New Testament section number 3, say Jesus, in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them. The tares, therefore, are gathered just prior to the harvest, and burn in the time of the harvest. So, the shepherd's rod made it so plain. According to the Bible, Matthew 13 verse 30, the tares are gathered just prior to the harvest. Therefore, the tares are already gathered in bundles, not one bundle, but bundles prior to the commencement of the harvest, prior to the commencement of the sealing of the 144,000 living saints. 1SR 228. The tares are gathered into bundles just prior to the commencement of the harvest. Now let us now read, who are they? The tares. So let us read Answerer number 2, page 47. Answerer number 2, page 47. It says, flood and tares are figurative equivalents. Answerer number 2, page 47, it says, flood and tares are figurative equivalents. Let us read 2TG 24:24. 2TG 24, page 24. It says, finally, what could be the dragon's flood? Remember, Answerer number 2, page 47, the dragon's flood and the tares are figurative equivalents because both of them cometh from the devil. So let us read 2TG 24:24. Finally, what could be the dragon's flood that proceeds out of his mouth, if not dragon prompted interpreters of the scriptures through whom he expects to cause the church to be carried away? Now, in the parable of Jesus Christ, when does the devil sow the devilish seeds? The tares. That is at the time when the servant is sleeping. That is very plain in Matthew chapter 13 on verse, let's read, verse 25. But while men sleep, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. Now, I would like to read to you these passages. It's up to you to decide, brothers and sisters. It says here in track number 4, the statement given by the shepherd's rod. It says, page 20, instead, as with the passing of Joshua, the Jews began to depart from their God, so with the passing of the apostles, the Christians drifted likewise. Another statement, 2SR, it says, 103, 2SR 103. The early Christian church in like manner was dragged into the dark ages as soon as the apostles passed away. Satan marshaled his agents, men of renown, into the church. And then in the last part, it says, Luther, with a great struggle, and at the rest of his life, founded the Lutheran denomination. But as he passed away, that movement in like manner was corrupted and hardened against new light on the Word of God. 1SR 200. Let's read the statement given by the shepherd's rod. It says here, 220, but as the shrewd enemy succeeded to pull down the first, he proceeded to use the same method to the last. What method? After the heavenly called founder died. The movement, which is originally under the direction of God's heavenly called founder, fall into the hands of uninspired men. Answerer number 1, page 65. Thus we see that the Reformation, which originally under the direction of inspired men, lifted the church out of one morass, later under the direction of uninspired men, plunge here into another wherein she has been plundering ever since. And unless we let the truth extricate us from this fatal bug of confusion, we cannot defeat the enemy of inspiration in his tireless and powerful efforts to pervert the implements of our salvation into weapons for our destruction. Old symbolic code. Let us read. Old symbolic code. 3 symbolic code, 11 to 12, page 10. Moreover, after the death of its reformer, the churches which they founded fell into the hands of foolish shepherds who were reaching out after numbers rather than after real converts. That is very plain. And the shepherd's rod says here in 2SR. Let us read. This is the statement given by the shepherd's rod. 2SR page 95. Let me read to you in 2SR. 2SR page 95. You can read the entire paragraph. It says, the 7 heads are to symbolically point out these high places ruled by unsanctified leaders who have attempted to mix the sacred with the common and refused to hear the word of the Lord. What is high places? That is represented by the headquarters. Number 7 indicates completeness. The biblical number 7, denoting completeness, naturally would comprise all Christendom at the time the prophetic truth is made known. Such apostasy is not a strange thing in the history of God's people, for time and again, the church has fallen under a satanic flood. In Luther's day, conditions were as bad as when the church crucified Christ. If this generation is more wicked than any before it, in reality, our generation is more wicked than any previous generation. What would immunize the church from just such an apostasy? 2SR page 95. Brethren, I remember the statement, Desire of Ages, Ezekiel 149 says that Christ will not contradict his own teaching. If Jesus Christ would preserve the church, the organization in apostasy after the heavenly called founder died, then Jesus Christ is contradicting his own words. Because in his parable, he made it so plain that when the servant is sleeping, indicating that when Joshua died, when all the apostles died, when Malachi died, when Luther died, when all the heavenly called founders died, all the movements which they founded fell into the hands of foolish shepherds, uninspired men. And the shepherds had called it carnal ministry because they came to that holy office because of favorable opportunity. What is the favorable opportunity? When the heavenly called founder died, they immediately came to the front. I would like to read this reading in 1SR Packet Edition, page 63. Ishmael too, being Abraham's firstborn son, but not through legal marriage or promise, he circumstantially represents a class of carnal ministry who are led to that office not through spiritual birthright and a call from the Lord of the vineyard, but only through favorable opportunity. Firstborn meaning ministry. So this ministry, brothers and sisters, by which they came from such favorable opportunity when the heavenly called founder died, they immediately came to the front, then organized. And in this study, they are represented by the bundles. The tares will be gathered into these militant churches, in these militant movements, by which they were militant against advancing truth. That is very plain, brothers and sisters. But the 144,000 living saints, what is the description? During the great apostasy. What is the great apostasy, by the way? The great apostasy, brothers and sisters, is found in Isaiah 63 verse 5, Isaiah 59:16, and Micah 7 verse 5. All of them pointing to the United States of America, because all the high places is located in the United States of America. Now, this is the statement. I would like to read again the statement. 1SR 222. Though such great apostasy and blasphemy has gripped the world, God church, 144,000 in number. So, the church mentioned here is the 11th hour church constitute the 144,000. But At that time, they were still scattered throughout the length and breadth of the earth without a shepherd, have not bowed a knee to Baal. If they have no shepherd, indicates clearly that they were not under any organization. They were not affiliated to any organization. Otherwise, they must have a shepherd. Because there is no such organization today without a shepherd. And that is the fulfillment of that message in Words to the Little Flock. I would like to read again this reading. Words to the Little Flock on page 11. Let us read. The work of the second angel. Remember, brothers and sisters, the three angels' messages is directly applied in the judgment for the living. White House Recruiter, page 39. Now let us read here. Words to the Little Flock, page 11. It says, the work of the second angel was to show to the Advent host that Babylon had fallen. Sometimes, brothers and sisters, it's very hard to give a deeper study unless we have complete understanding, all angles of the prophecy. That's why the focal point of the third angel's message is first to the proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary, and second, concerning the beast. Volume 6, page 17, it says, the light that we have received upon the third angel's message is the true light. The mark of the beast that had been, that is the statement in volume 6, page 17. So, there are two main points concerning the third angel. But the direct fulfillment of the third angel is in the judgment for the living. White House Journal Conference Special, page 39 and 40. It says, so the more we consider the subject, the more obvious it becomes. The truth that the third angel's message is final phase is the judgment for the living. And it is Elijah who will explain the judgment for the living, the harvest. And if you will read the Bible, it says in Revelation 13, it says, Revelation 13 verse 18, here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast. So this first clause, the divine command is that count the number of the beast. Why? Because it is closely connected to Daniel 11. The verse itself in Daniel 11, verse 45, is pointing to the 45th and then the 46th president. You need to count the beast. What does it mean? Count the number of the president of the United States of America. Although we will explain that on another subject. There will be no more presidential election in the United States of America. This is the last presidential election that ever happened in the United States of America. Although I would like to read to you here in track number 12, it says here, in track number 12, I would like to read a statement. Page 27, when the number is finally made up, the servants of God will be able to convince all the wise as to just when the beast symbolizes. It is very important because it is closely connected with the statement here. And to symbolic code number 1, let us read. To symbolic code number 1, page 8. As the fulfillment of this prophecy is yet future, we cannot now tell who will then be the head, king of the north. What is king of the north? Daniel 11 verse 45. And we will show to you that it was predicted beforehand that it is the 45th president that predicted that he will transfer the capital of Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And that is, without any doubt, we fully believe, brothers and sisters, that we are now in the fulfillment of the prophecy. Now, I would like to read to you to symbolic code number 1, page 8. As the fulfillment of this prophecy is yet future in the days of Bethihotep, we cannot now tell who will then be the head, king of the north, of this prophetic nation, modern Babylon, that is symbolized by the two-horned beast. Who is modern Babylon? Symbolized by the two-horned beast. Now, look at this reading in the Great Controversy, 390. It says, 390, the Great Controversy. The Bible declares that before the coming of the Lord, Satan will work with all power and signs and lying wonders and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness. And they that receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved, will be left to receive strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 9 to 11. Not until this condition shall be reached, and the union of the church with the world shall be fully accomplished throughout Christendom, will the fall of Babylon be complete. The change is a progressive one, and the perfect fulfillment of Revelation 14 verse 8 is yet future. But the statement in the upper paragraph, it says, the second angel's message of Revelation 14 was first preached in the summer of 1844. When does Revelation 14:8 is proclaimed? In the summer. Closely connected to our subject, Jeremiah 8:20, when it says, the summer is ended. Brothers and sisters, ponder deeply. It says, and then it says, and it then had a more direct application to the churches of the United States of America. Revelation 14 verse 8, the direct application is to the churches in the United States of America. That is very plain. The great controversy, 390. Where is the place? Modern Babylon, by which the perfect fulfillment of Revelation 14:8 directly applied to the United States of America. Because there are two Babylons, according to 2SR 245. Let us read. 2SR page 245. It says, the second angel's message of Revelation 14 verse 8 was proclaimed immediately after the disappointment, saying, Babylon is fallen, is fallen. That is, the world in 1844 fell in the same manner as the one before the flood. The present world is called Babylon because the kingdom of Babylon is the immediate one after the flood. Thus, Babylon became the mother of the nations. 2SR 245, the shepherd's rod made it so plain that there are two Babylons. The Babylon before the flood and Babylon after the flood. In the antitype, the Babylon before the flood is the old world, represented by the sea, the continent of Europe, the great controversy 440. But the modern Babylon after the flood, brothers and sisters, that is the United States of America. Now, ponder deeply, brothers and sisters. According to the shepherd's rod, William Miller is typifying Enoch, the one preaching before the flood. And who followed after William Miller? Ellen G. White. Ellen G. White. Now, just ponder deeply. If you will add, brothers and sisters, 1844, how many years that Noah preached? 120. 1844 plus 120, then you will fall in 1964. Therefore, it was 1964, brothers and sisters, that is the predicted time that the United States of America is becoming Babylon, brothers and sisters. And that is after B.T. Hotep died. And that is after such a knockout blow among the media. Now, I would like to read to you, again, words to the little flock, page 11. The work of the second angel was to show to the Advent host that Babylon had fallen. Let us distinctly separate at the time when it became Babylon and after, at the time when it had fallen. Brothers and sisters, the illustration after the flood is at the time when Nimrod start building the Tower of Babel. So that is the commencement of Babylon. So let us distinctly separate when they were starting building the Tower of Babel and the time when it had fallen. Now, I would like to read to you Patriarchs and Prophets. Here in Patriarchs and Prophets, let's read 124. Patriarchs and Prophets, page 124. It says, if in the professedly Christian world, many turn away from the plain teachings of the Bible and build up a creed from human speculations and pleasing fables and they point to their tower as a way to climb up to heaven. Men hung with admiration upon the lips of eloquence, while it teaches that the transgressor shall not die, that salvation may be secured without obedience to the law of God. If the professed followers of Christ would accept God's standard, it would bring them into unity. But so long as human wisdom is exalted above His holy word, there will be division and dissension. The existing confusion of conflicting creeds and sect is fitly represented by the term Babylon, which prophecy, Revelation 14 verse 8, 18-2, applies to the word-loving churches of the last days. Then I would like to read the last paragraph. It says, the time of God's investigation is at hand. The Most High will come down to see that which the children of men have builded. His sovereign power will be revealed. The works of human pride will be laid low. The Lord looketh from heaven. He beholdeth all the sons of men. From the place of His habitation, He looketh upon all the inhabitants of the earth. The Lord bringeth the counsel of the heathen to naught. He maketh the devices of the people of none effect. The counsel of the Lord standeth forever. The thoughts of His heart to all generations. Psalms 33 verse 13, 14, 10, and 11. And apology, brothers and sisters. Look at the situation among the media. Would you think it is not confusion? All of them believe that the shepherd's rod should be the basis of all doctrines. But why is it? They were separated in different groups. There is no question if they had been separated in different groups, but they were not attacking against each other. But that is not the case. They were attacking against each other, speaking evil against each other. Think thoroughly, brothers and sisters. And what is the root cause of this blunder? Because of private interpretation. Engaging in private interpretation, according to Answerer number 5, page 55. The great evil that brought Christendom into a boundless state of schism. Now, let's go back again, brothers and sisters, to our subject. The shepherd's rod, the Bible made it so plain that before the sealing of the 144,000, the tares are gathered into bundles. And that bundles represent organizations, represented by Ishmael, only came because of favorable opportunity when the heavenly called founder died. And there is no such immunization. And we are talking about the 7 brothers of David, the antitypical 7 brothers of David. Number 7 indicates completeness. So the absolute fact is that whether you believe it or not, brothers and sisters, that is the reality. If you want to be among the 144,000 living saints to be gathered by Jesus Christ, then since it is described that they were scattered throughout the whole world without a shepherd, indicating that the real, genuine Christians, because of their following the truth, because they want to follow the progress of truth, they were not under any umbrella of these so-called organizations. The 144,000 is scattered throughout the whole world without a shepherd, indicating that they were not affiliated with any so-called organizations, brothers and sisters. And because of that, they placed themselves that Jesus Christ will gather all of them, the 144,000, scattered throughout the whole world without a shepherd. God will gather them, all of them, brothers and sisters. It is Jesus Christ who will gather them. Now, we already read in the Shepherd's Rod publications that through the True to Life story, it says that those had been hired at 5 p.m. They knew that it is 5 p.m. So, B.T. Hotep says, through that physical analogy, we conclude that the 144,000, those who are hired at the 11th hour, they will know. It says, we can understand the commencement of the 11th hour. Now, I would like to read again because that is the statement. And White House Recruiter. White House Recruiter, page 13. It says, how can we know for a certainty in which hour we find ourselves? And if our own call for service has come, we can know only by establishing, brothers and sisters, it says, by establishing the time in which the last parabolic hour expires. So we need to know for certainty when would be the commencement of the 11th hour. And the only way that we could be able to understand it, brothers and sisters, by knowing when does the 11th hour expires. It is, for me, it is a wonderful subject, brothers and sisters, and very interesting to know when does the 11th hour, brothers and sisters, will finally come. Now, we already read in that reading in 3 symbolic code, number 5 and 6. But before reading, I would like to read again this reading in Words to the Lot of Life, page 11. The work of the second angel was to show to the Advent host that Babylon had fallen. And as a large portion of them did not learn this fact until the power of the midnight cry, wake them up. So when does the power of the midnight cry will come? Of course, that power cometh from God. And through that power of the midnight cry, the entire 144,000 will be awakened. Or in other subject, they will be disclosed to view. Let's read again. It says, and as a large portion of them did not learn this fact until the power of the midnight cry wake them up just in time for them to make their escape from the churches. What churches that they need to escape? The militant churches represented by the bundles. Before the 10th day came on, before the final day of atonement. White House Recruiter, page 11. But the statement in early writings, I would like to read. Early writings. Early writings, page 200. Let's read the statement given here. That they had not been benefited by that 249. Early writings, page 249. Those who rejected and opposed the light of the first angel's message. What is the light of the first angel's message, by the way? Revelation 14:7. Fear God and give glory to Him, for the hour of His judgment is come. And, well, hoping that that group of people claiming aspersion, they read their own publications. I would like to read to you your own publications. Track number 16. On page, let's read. Track number 16. This is the statement given by this publication. It says that the message did not say the judgment shall come or the judgment will come, but rather the judgment is come. Page 54. Let us read. In consequence, the prophecy that the hour of His judgment is come would have had to be declared ahead of time, out of time, which at that time would have been a false declaration, a thing which the Holy Spirit never makes. Let it be emphasized that the first angel's message does not say, fear God and give glory to Him, for the hour of His judgment shall come, but rather that the hour of His judgment is come. This scripture clearly shows that the truth of the judgment had to be declared not before, but at the exact time the judgment convened. Also that His truth is in all respects meet in due season, never given neither too soon nor too late. And that while we are taught truth, we are at the same time made to realize concerning God's visiting His people to make known to them the time to which they have come. So that is the message of the first angel. Inscribed in present tense. According to 1SR 156. It says, being inscribed in present tense, God did not intend to make the judgment known prior to the time of the actual event. But it says in 2TG number 12, page 30, 2TG number 12, page 29. It says, John truly penned it as a prophecy. But when it actually takes place, the spirit of prophecy in the church will be the one to proclaim it, that the event is actually taking place. The judgment for the living is in progress. And the voice of inspiration says in 2SR 164, unless we know, or unless the judgment for the dead, when it will close, will be made known to us, and the commencement for the living be made known to us, we would have no present truth, while the judgment for the living is in session. Therefore, that reading in 2SR 164 indicates that the church recognized by God as His in the period of the judgment that pertains to the living must be the church by which God bestowed the present truth, by which they have a complete understanding when the judgment for the dead close and the judgment for the living begins. Because without that knowledge, we have no present truth. And if we have no present truth, we are not the church recognized by Jesus Christ as His. Because according to 2SR 125, God's church is well marked in every generation in obedience to present truth. Now let us read again the statement here in Early Writings 249. Those who rejected and opposed the light of the first angel's message lost the light of the second and could not be benefited by the power and the glory which attended the message. Behold, the bridegroom cometh. The power and glory, the predicted event by which the entire 144,000 one by one will be disclosed to you by the power of the midnight cry, according to Whitehouse in Words to the Letter Flock, page 11, that the power of the midnight cry will wake them up and they will meet the bridegroom in the most holy place. But they will be waken up before the commencement of the day of atonement, according to the voice of inspiration. But they will never be benefited. Nobody can obtain that power. It will never be bestowed by God unto them. Those who oppose the proclamation of the first and the second angel's message, according to Early Writings 249. What is the proclamation of the second angel's message? It is to announce that there is no present truth in the modern Babylon. What is modern Babylon? United States of America. Therefore, if they will not accept that message, there is no possibility that they could receive the present truth, because all of them are dreaming that the present truth are all in its border in the United States of America. But the fact is that God declared there is no more present truth in the United States of America. Because after the flood, brothers and sisters, after the flood, Babylon began to rise. And we will show to you exactly type and antitype perfectly matched and exactly fits. Hoping that, brothers and sisters, you will continue listening and viewing this program. We love you, all the Bereans. We do not proclaim this message because we hate the Berean. No, we love all the Bereans. The only reason that we proclaim this message is to prepare all of us so that not even one Davidian, their names will be blotted out. That is our prayer, that all of us, our names will remain written in the Lamb's Book of Life. That when Jesus Christ will gather, hoping that not even one Davidian will miss out this wonderful event, when Jesus Christ will visit the earth and gather the 144,000 living saints. Thank you very much for listening during this program. We will continue this subject on our next episode. Have a beautiful and wonderful evening.